What's up guys, welcome back to the Big Bad 80. Today we are working on getting our new axle and new hub sorted for this thing. At the end of the last episode you saw we got it running, then we had that electrical problem. What that actually turned out to be was just a faulty earth for the battery. So super simple fix, everything's sorted now. We've run it again. We're trying to run it as little as possible without load. The last thing we want to be doing is just idling it with them fresh bores and washing them down. It's the last thing you want to do on a fresh motor. So we finally got our studs, which we've been waiting for ages for this hub to get this axle back in, so we can finally get this thing sorted and get it on the dyno this week, because it's been a long time coming. So hopefully we'll see some results out of this thing this episode. You may also notice that I'm filming on a different camera today. I just by chance left my other cameras at home, started filming on this camera in a separate video, and decided to sort of just try a few episodes going back to this camera. So please drop a comment, let me know what you reckon about the footage and the audio and everything else from this camera, how it compares to my regular camera. And let me know what you prefer. I'm always interested to hear what people actually prefer. All right, so we've got our little parts haul here today. Got our new shocks for the rear, because it didn't have any shocks in it. These are the studs that we were waiting on, which are finally here for our rear hub and axle. We've got here a whole heap of rear seals and, oh no, that's our hub, is it?
That's the hub, yeah.
That's our new hub. So, new genuine Toyota hub, which is awesome. We bought here a whole heap of seals and bearings and stuff for the axles, for the hubs and that. Which the owner actually the other day dropped off this big box of stuff.
That's
swivel hubs.
swivel hub, so that'll be for this.
That'll be for the front.
Wrong end.
Oh, it's only what the box says. It might not be. Anyway,
Yeah, true.
he reckons his mate gave him a heap of this stuff, which is meant to be bearing seals and that for the axle. We're not sure if anything, if it's all there or anything, but we're gonna try and use as much as we can of this, because this stuff was. It's incredibly expensive actually, so if we can use as much as this and return this stuff as we can, well then that'll be really good. So we'll see what we can use for that. We've also got our new axle here, which I showed you in the last episode, but yeah, so new axle, new hub, new second-hand axle, new hub, all new seals, new shocks to go on the back, and that'll have the rear end of this thing sorted. So the other thing that we do have to finish as well is we need to re-plumb in our blow-off valve. So this car was running a blow-off valve, which we are going to retain. The one thing we were waiting was actual materials so that we could weld it into the new intake setup. So that's finally arrived. We've got our 1.5" stainless there to add that into the intake so we can get that sorted. And that should have pretty much everything knocked on the head, and this thing will be ready to hit the dyno. All right, so Rex has just started cleaning up a few things and we've gone to have a look. And all of the hardware to retain the shocks, there's a plate that goes up in the coil tower that retains the shock, is gone. All of the hardware to bolt the shock to the actual diff is gone. Like, nothing is there. So it's another one of those things, pretty much most things with this car, every time we've gone to do something, like everything's missing to do it. So we're just gonna have to get onto the owner and try and get hold of that hardware. Hopefully he hasn't sold it or lost it or given it to someone else, because it's then gonna have to be another thing we're gonna have to try and source from a wreckers or something, and it's just never ending. Never ends. This whole thing has just been a headache. Every single thing we've gone to do has just been a headache because everything's missing. Yeah, so this is fun.
So the disc won't go over it.
Disc won't fit over the rooted hub. Oh dear. So this has pretty much been the worst job ever. What do you think about it, Rex? Rex has got no words. He got them all out before. Anyway, we're pretty much at a stalemate because, like always, we need a lot more parts than we originally anticipated to do this job. So there's a lot of other broken stuff. The wheel studs are pretty cooked, so there's no point in pressing the old wheel studs out and putting them in the new hub. We may as well use new wheel studs because they're all rooted. So, the brake caliper's seized, needs new pads. It's just everything on this thing that we go to do, which is meant to just be, quick, easy. It just drags on, and it's just always... It'd be alright if we were getting paid hourly for this thing, but we're not. That's the problem. So anyway, now that it's immobilised on our hoist for the week, now we can try and find the parts that we need to get. So we'll try and track down these parts we need for these shocks and try and track down some new stuff we need to get this this hub and axle sorted again, and hopefully we can get it sorted. But anyway, we'll keep on keeping on like always. Seems like this thing will just never end. So guys, a bit of an update on where we're at with the big white whale. So we're chasing up the parts that we need at the moment. The owner's chasing up the parts that he, hopefully for the shock tower and stuff like that. So trying to figure out where we can get those things from, whether he's got them at home and that. So that's all underway. Hopefully still by the end of this week, the thing's ready to hit the rollers. But we've ordered new wheel studs. They'll be here tomorrow, so we'll get them in the new hub. Hopefully this thing will be on its way. So it's now the next day. We just called the part shop where we order our wheel studs to. And they ordered 12, which we actually only needed 6 in the first place, but they only got sent 1. So we've only got 1 wheel stud waiting at the parts shop. So you can't even make this stuff up. I don't understand why, but it seems everything we're doing at the moment just doesn't want to get done. It seems like the universe is just punishing us. Maybe it's because we're working too hard. I don't know, but it's another one of those things. Everything we touch at the moment just doesn't want to be done. Something always seems to happen lately. Alright, so after a good week, we finally got all of the wheel studs we need.
Wheel studs!
Yay! So Rex is finally going to go ahead and get the cruiser back together, which is awesome because we really need the hoist back. We also got a new lock nut for the actual hub for the diff housing, which is that one there, which is awesome because the one we took off was very sad. So obviously when the axle, sorry, that's the one I'm looking for. When the axle let go, obviously it was still driven on for a little while, and well, not for a little while, but it did a bit of damage obviously as it was sort of floating around in there just to the end of this. So we had to sort of get that lock nut off. We had to damage the nut quite a bit, and then we had to spend quite a bit of time cleaning this end up to get it to the point where it's going to be usable again and be fine. So that's pretty much what's going on there. So we've tied it down the best we can, and we've got a new lock nut, so we should be okay with this new hub, and everything should be fine and dandy. Rex also got new... Did you get the stuff you needed for the shocks?
Yeah, they're in.
Oh, shocks are in.
Yeah, shocks are in.
New shocks are in, look at that. And blind. So what happened there? The owner ended up dropping that stuff off, hey?
Yeah, he got them from Torma, so he got that lock nut with the rest of the shock plates.
So we let the owner know what the deal was and what was missing, and he sort of endeavored to go and sort that stuff out and get a hold of some stuff, which was awesome. That was a huge help for us because at the moment we're just that busy. That's the hardest part, is just finding the time to chase the second-hand stuff from wreckers and parts people and stuff like that, because we're just so busy. Anyway, Rex is doing that. I've got to finish the tune on this Class 8 race truck. So Rex will sort that out, and hopefully we'll have that cruiser ready to hit the dyno this end of this week. This after week. That's close. But realistically, we probably actually won't be able to get it onto the dyno until next week, just because we've got power play coming up this weekend. Yeah, we still got another car we've got to get. So we've got too much to do this week, realistically. So hopefully this thing will be on the dyno next week. And fingers crossed it just goes smooth sailing, no problems. We can get tuned and then go off to its new home. We can finally end this series after 8 months or whatever. Anyway, I'm not making any content on this, so I'll give you a quick sneak peek in this video just cause. Nothing to do with the 80, but got ourselves a nice little turboed, full forged SR20 in here. Patrol RB gearbox with Patrol transfer case, Patrol diff. So this is a Class 8 off-road racing get up, and yeah, it is pretty cool. So doing the tune on this, happy to get him out winning some races, winning some events. Cool to see. All right, we are back together. Anyway, as you can see, new shocks, new brake pads, new hub, all new studs. She's schmick-eyed, real schmick-eyed. Look at that. Alright guys, so it's finally dyno day, or at least run-in day for the big girl. So Rex has just been sorting out the blow-off valve so we can get the blow-off valve back into it, so that we can, at least the intake's pretty much then finished. And then we're going to get it on the dyno and just do a bit of a run-in procedure, try and get these rings bedded in a little bit, and get all that, you know, assembly lube flushed out. Do a little bit of a run-in, and then we can dump the oil, fill it back up, provided everything has gone okay, and we can actually do our dyno tune. So the biggest reason that this has been delayed, apart from the other 9 cars that we've got to build, is the fact that we needed some more argon for the TIG, which Rex went and got yesterday. So 2630 wheel, making somewhere between. Woo-hoo-hoo. Alright, so we're pretty happy with the run-in, so we're just going to pull it off the dyno now and chuck it over on the hoist and change out the oil, get that assembly lube stuff out of the oil that's in it. So we got a bid on for the rest of the week, so we'll sort this out, get it ready to go for its full tune, and hopefully probably Monday we should have this thing back on the dyno for its actual proper tune and see what sort of power numbers we make out of that. So we're just going to double check the gearbox oil as well while we change out the engine oil. Just double check all that's all good, doesn't smell burnt or anything like that. It seems to be shifting fine in the run-in, it seems to be doing everything fine. Righto guys, so cruising along with this pretty well. It's going awesome. It's not going to go anywhere near the power that we wanted to make, and that is mostly just because we don't have enough turbo to do it. So as we expected, this turbo is very small for the setup, and as we expected to happen, the thing is responsive as it's a torque monster, but it's just not going to make the numbers that we want it to make. So anyway, we've got it at around 14 pound now. It doesn't really want to make any more boost than that. Happily, we've still got a bit of work to do. We'll see what we can do tomorrow, try and get a bit more into it.
It's responding, like boost-wise.
Yeah.
It's not taking a lot of duty cycle to get boost up.
We'll see how we go. At this stage, we're out of fuel pump. The steady, classic problem. We're out of fuel pumps, dropping fuel pressure. So I've pulled it up for today. Rex will try and sort that tomorrow, I suppose. I won't be around. I suppose can't really sort it because we don't have a pump to put in it, do we? So no. We'll have to order a pump and then sort it. That's a bit of a pain. So it's going to be another few days before we can actually finish off the tune properly. But anyway, so this is our manifold pressure, and you can see it's just full throttle. Yeah, immediately on. So nice to see some results after all this time. So we've got, I don't know if I've mentioned to you guys before in previous episodes, but this boost controls through the e-boost Street 40, which is the same one we have in our cruiser as well. Awesome little unit value for money. Not quite sure why whoever put the Haltech put this ECU in here and then didn't use a lot of the features. It's something we do see quite often, and as tuners it's really strange to us why people would buy like the flagship model of ECU from a company that has you know, an almost unlimited amount of inputs and outputs as far as your imagination could go, and they literally only use it to do fueling and timing and then run everything else off aftermarket stuff that has nothing to do with the ECU. You know, I reckon probably a Haltech Sprint 500 could probably do the same job that this Haltech's doing in this car at the moment. But anyway, it is what it is. At least it's nice to work with. But yeah, we've got the e-boost Street 40 controlling boost. On gate pressure, this thing went 260. So we've got 260 horsepower on gate pressure, which will be the low boost tune, which was about 7 pound, was it, Rex?
Yeah. Yep.
7 PSI. So that's pretty good numbers for 7 pound. The old 1FZ's no slouch. Pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, that'll be the low boost, which will be 260 horsepower at 7 pound, and then high boost will be just whatever we can get into it before this housing starts to pull us up on this turbo. So Rex is saying we're already, this thing's not loving timing. It's not taking much timing at all, and you know, being such a big motor and such a small turbo and such a small housing, even if we have enough duty cycle left to get more boost into it, it may not like it. It may not want to make any more power. So again, it is what it is. It's the sizing of the combo, which is to achieve the torque to move a weight, I suppose, of a touring car, not so much to achieve peak power higher up in the RPM. So we'll see what it does when we've got the fuel to support it. So we've got a new fuel pump. I had to go do some running around down in Brisbane yesterday, so I went and saw Jay at Brisbane Fuel Injection Services there. We got ourselves a genuine Walbro 255 intake pump, so should be plenty of fuel for what we want to do with this thing. But yeah, we were talking about it. Between this fuel pump, which is obviously not enough fuel to supply to what's going on now, and the old injectors that were in it, which were only about 440 cc or something, this thing must not have been making a lot of power before. So when you couple that with what actually happened to this thing when it got here, and then what we found in the e-boost when we went into it, it's starting to make a bit of sense as to why this thing didn't live. It wouldn't have been very happy. But anyway, at least we're getting there with it. So we'll get this new fuel pump in and we'll be able to get this tune finished off. All right, so finally got the tank out, and in true fashion with everything else on this car, it was an absolute prick of a thing to get out. This thing is just the worst. It's annoying because there is an access hatch there, but in this thing it's covered by about 4 ton of frickin' touring stuff in the back. You can't get at anything like that. So tank's got to come out, which is just absolute prick of a job. Just so many weird little brackets for stuff that someone set up. There's just so much stuff on this thing. Here we have somewhat of an interesting development. This is obviously a fairly upgraded pump, which is what we thought would be safe to assume considering the thing was already turboed. So we thought it safe to assume that there would be an upgraded pump in there, and hey presto. This looks to be like quite a serious pump, so maybe it's just old and had it. Hopefully. Hope that's the problem, otherwise we've got other issues. But it was definitely dropping off fuel pressure, so 2 things: either the wiring's not adequate to run the pump and it was causing an issue, or the pump's just old and had it. Alright guys, so we're pretty much at the end of this thing as far as the tune, just for power goes, on the dyno. So Rex has played around with it heaps, setting it up, trying different boost levels, that sort of thing. What we found is what we do find fairly often with cars that have a very small turbo in regards to what it should be, or the sizing I should say, is that it's making it's a lot happier and making more power at less boost. You know, less back pressure, more equalized pressure ratio across the head, better timing, more efficient motor, making more power, less boost. That's what you find. So Rex has found that at 11 pound, it's making more power than it was at 15. So this thing, it's just out of turbo. This turbo won't do it. It won't even get us near our original goal, which we were hoping to sort of get close to 400 with this thing, but this turbo will not do it, which we thought it would dubious on. We didn't know exactly what the turbo was. With it, it's a very, very old Garrett, and as we know, it's just a little bit smaller than a GT35 sort of size, which for a 4.5 litre engine is very, very small. Not to mention, you know, the manifold's not exactly a nice free-flowing manifold. It's a fairly restricted manifold sort of deal. So it just is what it is. We do what we can with what we've got, and that's what the turbo's going to do, and that's all it's going to do. So you know, the motor's massively overbuilt for what it's doing. It is a torque monster though. It's making awesome torque, really good low down, really good responsive. Exactly what you'd want for a touring setup, but it just will not make the power with this turbo. That's why we're going to have to pull it up. So there we are. After all this time, after all this effort, after all these hours, after all this work, that's where we're at. 284 horsepower at the wheels at 11 pound is where it's happy. So anyway, the thing would probably make real good power with a decent manifold and a better sized turbo. Something like a new 3584 RS or something would be a good size for 4.5 litre for power. I got no doubt that this thing could make probably 500 sort of thing on 98. It'd be off tap, but it is what it is. Old mates, the owner's got no more money to spend on it. As it is, so that's where it is. At least it's sorted, it's finally finished, which is a really big relief. Super glad, because it has been here for probably, I think about 10 months now it's been here, as we've just had to wait for parts and things to happen, and everything we touched, brought in more work for it, everything we had to do turned into another job to fix another thing that someone else had done or someone else had broken. The thing that pretty much got here, it was half parted out. We had to hunt around, find parts that you can't buy. Massive amount of time chasing stuff up for this and just doing works that are way outside of the scope of what it was meant to be, and the amount of hours that have ended up going into it is just absolutely ludicrous. So the owner's got these wheels and tyres to go on it as well, and it's just going to be absolutely off tap. Look, that's, yeah, 35s on those. It's just going to look ridiculous. And he's got all that new front end, which you probably saw through the build series, the new headlight surrounds and grill and stuff. So we'll have to do a bit of road testing, see what the combi shift's doing as far as the gearbox goes, make sure the shifting's all perfect and on point, and the gearbox is all happy and doing all that. Still got all that to do, but yeah, pretty cool to finally see some numbers, even if it's not exactly what we wanted. So you can see here on like the 15 PSI run, it's making a lot more down low. It's happy down here, but we found at 15 pound, Rex found that as you start getting towards the mid-range, it starts to get really noisy. The engine's not too happy. And then as you can see, at the top end, trying to push 15 pound, it's the turbo's really not too happy either. So, you know, if we had the boost control set up through the Haltech, we could actually ramp this in and we could run sort of 15 pound up until 3.5 and then start pulling boost out and bring it back down. And we could probably get this, as you can see here, this is the 11 pound run, the 284. We could probably get this to come up and then sort of almost plateau and get a lot more area under the curve down here, but you can't do it with the e-boost unless you have like an RPM input, which it doesn't. So all we've got with the e-boost is essentially a blanketed duty cycle table, which is over everything, which is why we pretty much have to pick a boost pressure and go with it. So that's one of the advantages of actually having your boost control through the ECU rather than you know, a third-party controller. Even though the e-boost, the Street 40 is good in that if you did have RPM, you could control it a bit more like that, but we don't. To show you what it's doing for torque, it's pretty mad. It's almost similar to what our 80 series does, which again has very small turbos for the combo, just that they're newer, far more efficient turbos, but the way that it makes power or torque down low is very similar to this thing. So switch that over to torque on this side, you can see, what are we out there? Nearly 500 foot-pound wheel torque, which is pretty wild considering it makes 280 horsepower. Yeah. I suppose you got to account for converter multiplication as well. Yeah, but that's the hard part. Still, as you can see, it's just making peak torque straight off the bat. That's peak torque here, which is 2500 RPM. So the thing will just pull like a freight train. All right, guys, it has been some time when it comes to this cruiser. We've been waiting now for like a few weeks while we try and I'll go through it. It's a bit of a saga. So 80 is still here. It should have been gone ages ago. Even though it should have been gone ages ago, it actually still should have been gone ages ago, even though it's still been here for too long, if you know what I mean. So when we took the GQ LS680 down to Sam at Whitey's there to get the AC lines done, we got him to quickly do the AC line for that for the new receiver dryer setup to suit the condenser. Now, that was all well and good. He did that, smashed it out, absolutely perfect, as always. All is well and good. We got home, it fits awesome, only we came to realize that actually the other line, which goes from the receiver dryer up to a join, which is just sort of halfway down the passenger side guard, there's actually just a fitting and a join that goes there, only to find out that it's actually a different thread. That nut is a different thread for the 3F version than it is for the 1FZ version. Why? I have no idea. It's mystery to me, but it's just something that we had completely missed. So it's one of those things where we've had so much trouble with so many of our conversions and jobs that we do, finding people to do AC lines, particularly locally. We always end up pretty much just booking in with Sam. The problem is Sam's a very, very busy person. It takes a few weeks to get in there, and then obviously we have to take it down to him to get him to do it, and for us, we pretty much lose at least half a day, sometimes a day. So we pretty much got to a point where we were like, well, you know, when we went down to get Sam to do the ones for the patrol, I sort of looked at how he did it, what he was doing. Sam's obviously a really good bloke. Sort of took me through a bit of what he does, and we sort of just decided we may as well give it a crack and start having a go ourselves. So that's pretty much what we decided to do. And so we found ourselves some alloy brazing rods, which we got here fairly locally. Had to wait for them for a little bit. They got here. They did not work. They just didn't work, straight up, not the right stuff. Again, we're new to this, not 100% sure brazing and materials and stuff. So then we went ahead and asked around and actually found sort of what we need that was going to be more suitable to what we were doing, and some flux and some other rods which we ordered, which we then had to wait for. Once again, here they are finally. So Rex has been pretty much all afternoon just practicing brazing we went and cut a heap of old AC lines out of a heap of other cars we had here, and Rex has just been practicing brazing lines together, and he's pretty much feeling confident enough that he's ready to give this a go.
Yeah, the first one I gave it a go and it fucked up. So.
Uh-oh. That's not good, but anyway, that's pretty much the story. So hopefully after this we can add doing our own AC lines to the resume and the repertoire of what we do. It just seems to be really hard to find people to do AC lines, like to do good hard lines and stuff like that. You know, granted that doing this sort of thing, pretty much what we're looking at doing is brazing lines together and then brazing fittings onto lines that we can then use to crimp soft AC line to, and then use crimp connectors. So, you know, it's nothing too extravagant. To do what we need to do, we sort of need to have the fittings that fit the manifolds on either the firewall or whatever, which we usually do when you do a conversion. Usually we have the fittings that fit the compressor out of the donor car, and usually you have the fittings that fit the firewall manifold in the car you're swapping into. So usually you can use that, a combination of brazing and crimping, and make lines up. So it just seems really hard to get people to do that, and looking at what Sam was doing, it didn't particularly look that hard, so I figured maybe there's a bit of a demand for it, and if we can work out how to do it, it's probably worth just doing ourselves rather than losing half a day to a day every time we need to get lines made. So anyway, the timeline basically goes, we finished tuning the cruiser and had that sorted. We then had to wait, I think it was about a week and a half or 2 weeks, till we went down to Sam to get him to do that other AC line. Which was all good. Got back, worked out that the other one was different, so then we had to wait another week before we got those brazing rods, which were wrong, and then it's been another week since we got this other brazing stuff, which we're finally getting sorted now. So as you can see, it's been another big delay, which is a pain, but anyway, it is what it is. Alright guys, so it's the next morning. So yesterday the brazing sort of worked, but it sort of, I suppose, wasn't as good as it could have been. What we found was that the torch setup we were using with the butane gas, it's not too bad, it's really good for the price, and we've gotten away with it for a long time doing what we do, but it just wasn't hot enough. You know, it wasn't localized, it wasn't localizing enough heat fast enough to really get where we wanted to braze real hot, and it was sort of dissipating the heat too much through the alloy lines and just getting them too hot. It just wasn't really working. So we actually went this morning and got a Red Devil Turbo MD gas torch, this one over here, and we're using that this morning, and it worked a lot better. So that's sort of been much better for us. Rex actually, after he sorted that one out, he was that impressed with the torch. He did some more practice runs, and we think we've got this pretty down pat as far as brazing AC lines, which is super exciting that we're able to do that now. So another skill, I suppose, that we can add to our list of things to practice and get better at. So anyway, got the line sorted. So Rex is focusing on getting that together now. The owner's coming to pick this up either this afternoon or in the morning, which is awesome after all this time. Be pretty excited to see it go out the driveway. But anyway, we're going to get this together, put the new lights and grille in the best we can with the hardware that we've got. Unfortunately, just like just about everything else on this car, most of the hardware that we need to do that's missing. So we can't really put them in properly, but we'll put them in as best we can, ready for the owner to come get it, and he might sort of know where a bit more of the rest of the hardware is, and things like the fuel tank cap and that, and heaps of other stuff that's missing. Maybe he knows what that is as well. But anyway, it's coming to an end, which is great. It's been a long time coming.
Jesus, did it take some figuring out, but
anyway, I've got to go do a few other things this morning, but I'll check back in after lunch and we'll see what it looks like with the lights and stuff in there. Righto, sorry guys, it's been a big old day for me, but Rex managed to get pretty much as much of this front end together as we could get with what we've got. The owner just dropped in before. He's going to be coming back to get it this afternoon. He's pretty happy with it. Everyone's pretty stoked, and she's finally pretty much sorted. So yeah, that's what she looks like with all the new lights and grill and stuff. I don't think they're expensive items. I think they're just sort of cheap stuff from eBay, but it does look good. The updated lights really do make the 80 look a lot better. I would like to get some for ours, but they're usually so expensive. But anyway, it's all sorted, all finished and done after all this time. And I'll show you these AC lines. So it looks like under the bonnet. So, this is the AC line. This is the AC line we had to make. That's our brace. We did pressure test it with some soapy water in the compressor before. Doesn't appear to be leaking at all, but obviously it remains to be seen when it's gassed up, but we're pretty confident that it is going to be all well and good. So this is the final product of the 80 series after all this time. It's probably been the longest build we've ever done as far as the time it took to take everything. There's been a lot of steep learning curves with this vehicle and this job in particular, but hey, it got done at the end, and that's most important, and everyone's happy with it, which is the main thing. So I think from here, pretty much the owner's plan is to eventually look at upgrading the turbo, which, as we all know, is holding the combo back quite a bit, and hopefully actually make some power and sort of take advantage of this forged bottom end and use it to its full potential. Like I said, he's got the big wheels out the back there to fit, so stoked to see it back here with them on it and see what it looks like with the new wheels. But yeah, here we go. The big old 1FZ-80's all sorted. Another one finished. So there you have it, guys. All said and done. So like I said, been a steep learning curve, this one. It's changed a fair bit of how we plan on sort of taking on work in the future. But again, it's all par for the course of running a business and getting off the ground and doing all that sort of stuff. So there's always good things to come from it. So anyway, it's been here that long. It seems to pretty much have become part of the furniture. So it's going to be strange watching it leave. But yeah, looking forward to seeing it get used and actually be driven. Who knows how long it's been sitting for. Hope you enjoyed the build, guys. Sorry it was so long between episodes for this build. As I explained, just about in every episode it was always due to delays. I can't believe one car or building one project could have so many roadblocks as far as delays for parts. I guess that just comes with it being not exactly a super popular platform. Not only that, but also receiving RON parts and stuff like that. It was just a wild ride. This thing has been a wild ride. But yeah, so apologies for that, but we did get there in the end. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching as always, and hopefully we'll see it back here soon with the new wheels. I'm excited to see it with them wheels on it. And we'll see you on the next build, guys. Peace out, see you, bye.